Welcome back to another episode of Nineworks TV. Now today I'm here at Thruxton Race Centre, and it's a little bit different today because we're not talking Porsche road cars but moreover Porsche race cars. Now I've been lucky enough to be given two opportunities to do one-off races this year in genuine Porsche Boxster race cars. One's in the Boxster Cup with the Porsche Club, we'll look at that another episode. But today's video is going to be focusing on this 986S supplied by Brian and the guys at Rindt Vehicle Design. It's going to be competing in the Classic Sports Car Club. But what's different about what the guys at Rint are offering versus perhaps others is this is an arrive and drive service. All you have to do is get in and race, and really if you're not buying the car, well that is the biggest expense taken away. So what we'd like to know today is, can the everyman go racing? Someone like myself who has absolutely no racing experience whatsoever, what could possibly go wrong? Okay then, so we're going to walk around this car shortly and just take a look at its spec, but I think what's worth pointing out from the off is, well, the arrive and drive concept is really attractive. The reality is, if you want to go racing, the biggest expense by a country mile is the race car itself, where it can cost you six figures to put together a really well sorted car from scratch. Also, it takes a lot of time in both build and development, which of course can be exacerbated if you're doing it for the first time. An arrive and drive concept therefore takes away the lion's share of the expense, which opens up the possibility of dipping a toe into racing for a lot of people, particularly at grassroots level. All you need to do is have your ARDS licence, which Rint can put you through like they did with me. Everything else is catered for, which as I say is really attractive. All it means is you turn up with your crash hat and your race suit and you go racing. Rint bring the car, they bring the techies, mechanics, everything you need to go and have fun. Let's take a look around the car spec-wise, okay? So first things first, I've said in previous videos just how good the 986 Boxster is straight out of the box. It really is such a good, really nicely well-balanced road car. For racing, depends obviously, you're governed by the regulations of the championship that you're competing in. For Classic Sports Car Club, the following is allowed to have been done to this 986 Boxster. It's stripped out, as you can tell. We're looking at a weight of around 1,300 kilos, so it's relatively stripped of weight. The engine, this particular engine, is pushing out 298 horsepower. They're 250 out the box on the 986, so 300 horsepower, kind of 996 territory really. Suspension wise, we've got some aftermarket suspension on here, Nankang tyres, some racing pads and discs. That's kind of about it. The gearbox is the same that's found in the road car Boxster with the same ratios, I might add. There's no limited slip diff in this car either. So that's roughly what we're looking at. 300 horsepower, 1,300-ish kilos, a couple of racing upgrades, but otherwise, this is a 986S Boxster road car. With my new ARDS licence on side, it was time to start my racing journey on track in Rint's Boxster. But who is behind Rint? Let's hear from owner Brian. What's kind of your story with racing?
Yeah, no, used to when I was 17 to 20, used to race, loved it, old Triumphs and stuff like that. Then went off and played golf. Stopped doing that, started building cars. Really, to be honest, had a bit of a run-in with cancer last year and changed my attitude about waiting for things. So enjoy racing, but we're more interested in getting grassroots Porsche racing going. We're trying to just get people to understand that you don't have to be a multi-millionaire to go racing and have some fun in a Porsche. It's kind of a baptism of fire building a race car because you get it wrong more times than you get it right, and we're still messing around with it. But it's just a bulk standard 3.2 Boxster. And then we come up with more ideas to make it go quicker and hold its own and change the tyres and mess the brakes around and suspension. And eventually you get something that's pretty well balanced and you enjoy. We're doing assisted racing. So by that I mean we get people their ARDS, a bit like we're doing with you, and then we'll get you out in a race. So we'll charge a fee for that, but they'll race in a Rint car. It'll just be arrive and drive in effect. It's just trying to get people introduced into it because it's a drug, you know. As soon as you get in there, you don't want to get out, you know. Andrea, like I say, my PA has never been interested in racing. Came up for a couple of track days, spoke to Tony, we've enjoyed it, went karting, she enjoyed it. 2 days ago I said, you're doing your ARDS. And she'll be racing at Snetterton in a few weeks. You know, you impart that you don't need to be a millionaire to own a Porsche, and you don't. you know, and you don't need to be a millionaire to go racing. Got a 964, again, Tony's helping with that. So that's in build at the moment. I'll go out in it, but I won't be quite as good as he might be. But we'll have some fun in it.
Time to find out exactly who he is. Tony Marion, art instructor, ICU performance driving coach.
Yep, yeah, I've been working here for, as I say, 21 years.
Obviously, many years experience in the seat. You're now imparting some of that knowledge onto others.
It's good for Rindt, you know, because of what we're trying to achieve, of getting people into cars, let them experience a race track and a full race experience. And until you've been on the grid, it is an experience.
From your point of view, what's so appealing about the 986 Boxster platform?
It's a mid-engine, it's not a rear engine like a 911. You know, the 911, the engine is hanging out over the axles, so that means you get a pendulum effect. Great fun to drive. I've raced 911s for many years. The Boxster is a very neutral car. It's in set right suspension settings, nice set of tyres. It's a great car to start in.
The guys at Rindt have kind of found a home from home at Thruxton here.
Yes, yeah.
For anybody a bit like me before today who maybe hasn't tried Thruxton before,
right.
What would you say to entice them off the sofa and into a race car?
It's termed the fastest track in the country, so obviously that can be someone who's never been onto a racetrack. Do I want to start off on the fastest race? Yeah, it's fine. It's as fast as you want it to be. It's 4 lanes. Most of it is forward, so when you're instructing, it's quite nice to say lane 1, lane 2, lane 3, lane 4, to give people an idea, because obviously what we, as instructors, we never should forget of what's it like the first time you go onto a track. I started in '84 at Snetterton, and you have to think back, what was it like to actually venture out on a racetrack for the first time?
Fantastic. Well, Tony Marion, arts instructor extraordinaire.
It's extraordinary, yeah. Pleasure, thank you.
With that, we headed back out on track for some much needed seat time under Tony's tutelage. So, we've completed our first morning of testing, I suppose. Thruxton is actually my nearest track, but I mean, it doesn't really do a lot of loud days. Usually, like for track days, it's 98 decibels. So, because Porsches, or certainly my Porsche's, never really got under 98 decibels noise limit, I've never actually driven Thruxton. What has been brilliant though is Rindt have brought along a driving instructor, which again is part of the service. Tony, who I have to say has been absolutely phenomenal for showing me the lines, showing me the gearing, showing me where I need to place the car. It really is invaluable to get some seat time. I really wouldn't want to go into the race weekend blind, and it goes without saying, the more experience you can get behind the wheel, the better. It's worth passing on some advice as well that others with far more experience than I have given to me in the run-up to this race, and it's essentially, A, you just want to finish. It's that classic old Porsche saying that comes from Le Mans. In order to finish first you must finish. But the reality is, for my maiden race, finishing first isn't really on the agenda. Genuinely, I would just like to finish the race, but it's important you set your own goals regardless. In my case, it could be just finishing. If you're perhaps a little bit more experienced, you might like to perhaps find someone who's a little bit quicker than you and just say, well, can I keep up with them over the course of the weekend? Once you manage to do that, maybe next time out, well, look, can you go past them? So it's really important that you basically just run your own race and not try and get caught up in what everybody else is doing. That's very much the goal for me in this maiden race. I'm nervous enough as it is, so I think just finishing the race regardless of position will represent a real win for me. Coming up in part 2, it's race day and a baptism of fire. Oh my God.